Mental Health Monday on Radio City Talk with Mick Coyle.
Radio City Talk.
My name's Mick. Welcome to Mental Health Extra. Follow us on from Mental Health Monday every Tuesday as part of Radio City Talk, when I'm joined in the studio by Jake Mills from Chasing the Stigma. Jake's great to see you.
And you, how are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Just a quick FYI, I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. We had a decent night at the O2 Media Awards. We just missed out in two categories, community journalism and best radio feature. We were beaten, Jake, for the Mental Health Marathon, our 24-hour show, by our own colleagues in the Radio City newsroom for a feature they did on an anniversary, a very important anniversary, which they marked as well. So we were more than happy to lose out to them. But then we did lose out to a rival organisation in the category.
What hurt the most?
Just seeing my own colleagues. So no, it's nice to get recognised. The fact that people have heard it and thought, you know what, that's worth a nomination. We were more than happy with that. We have still got the Mind Media Awards to go as well at the end of the month. We've not sorted the trains for that yet, Jake. We still need to do that.
Do we know who we're up against? Do you know what the competition is?
Yes, I do know that we are the only local media organisation nominated in any category.
I mean, in a way, we're winners already, but that's not enough, is it?
We're the only nominated local media category, which you kind of think, well, that's good. But then at the same time, I think, well, there are local media outlets right around the country who maybe aren't embracing the sort of conversations we're having and sort of finding value in that and sort of connectivity maybe with their audience, really relatability with the audience. There is another Liverpool connection, by the way, at the Mind Media Awards, which are basically representations of the mental health in the media. Line Pictures that do Hollyoaks. They've had a lot of success there because of the work that they do as well. So Liverpool will have its own delegation. So we can sort out. Do they still have that Liverpool embassy in London?
Well, it will be
we're basically we need to bunk there for the night. But we'll let you know about that. It's the 29th of November, so a little bit of time before that one's on. Absolute whirlwinds of guys in the studios for this week's Mental Health Monday. Stu and Keith Xander, their Purple Rain track, and they are doing that in support of Calm, the campaign against living miserably, which do wonderful work. There's a link now on our social media to where you can find out more about the work that they do. Stu and Keith, with their own experiences. Stu in particular, so passionate about this issue of mental health and how we deal with these sort of matters through different means as well. They kept me on my toes as well, Jake, you'll have noticed through, with 1,001 different aspects and angles that they wanted to investigate.
Yeah, do you know what? I think the approach and the passion, it came through, and it was quite a nice one to hear as well, because particularly in the world that kind of certainly I deal with and what you're dealing with in these shows, we hear from people who are kind of practitioners or are working within mental health fields, and it was nice to hear an angle of people who have been through something themselves and aren't necessarily working within that field but are passionate about it, and the passion really did come across, and it was really kind of refreshing to hear it from different points of views. I think there was some things that they were saying and talking about which weren't necessarily the one that I kind of picked up on, and I thought it was important to bring it up. And I wouldn't ever kind of blame them for having this view or opinion, because certainly a lot of people do. But it was particularly about the Samaritans and the connotations, the religious connotations. And I just felt like it was important to point out that the Samaritans, although called Samaritans, is not a religious group. And I think, as I say, I'm not kind of would never hold that against them for having that, because I think a lot of people have that opinion, and that's something that the Samaritans do have to battle on a kind of daily basis, is this connection to a religious group. But then they are not a religious group, and it doesn't matter any religion or faith that you are, the Samaritans is not associated to any.
But it was interesting that actually they made that comment off the back of the wider point that they were trying to make about situations that occurred in their childhood.
Yeah.
And how that environment shaped both their worldview, but also how it impacted on their own mental health as well.
Yeah.
And actually, one of the things which, tragically, losing parents, can have a huge impact, but different impacts on people. Some kids have got a resilience to it. Some won't face that until maybe they get a little bit older. Some will just have an ability to sort of continue with life. Some will be devastated for the rest of their lives because of what's gone on there. One of the things that came about as a result of as the death of a parent was the grandparent became much more prominent in their lives. And I think there was a religious element to the way she saw things, which meant that they then draw or saw references between religious organisations and things that actually might have been a help, which I think is where the Samaritans things actually came on. That it was almost something that they felt that they wanted to rebel against, because it was a representation of something which at the end of the day was, you know, a result of tragic circumstances, and something which I guess would have been, you know, a complex series of decisions and an overall complex situation. But then these are the way people live their lives. They deal with things. They deal with all these kinds of issues every day. Do
you know what I found really kind of interesting about it? And again, it's something that we talk about every single week. But you know, I think these are two really cool guys. I think they really they're obviously really talented. I thought they were really articulate. I thought they came across absolutely brilliantly. I've actually seen them play live a couple of times. I think that they're absolutely fantastic. But you know, you go and watch them live, you hear them sing the songs, you see them perform, you have absolutely no idea. I didn't know that backstory. I didn't know what they'd gone through. I didn't know that they lost a dad. I didn't know the way they brought up, that, you know, the problems, the troubles that they had, being bullied, the struggles that they had. I didn't know any of that. And I think it's an example of that. You just don't know. You have absolutely no idea. And the fact that they're now using that to create this track to help Calm, but also it's not just about helping Calm. It's about what the wider kind of appeal that they're going to have to people, to say, well, look what they've been through, look what they've had to deal with, and are probably still dealing with as well. But they're using music as a way of getting that across. And we discussed this the other week anyway with the Talk Tonight concert as well. And it's such a powerful way of getting that point across and that message across.
There was a comment, forgive me if it actually wasn't in, it might have been something we were talking about off air, when they got approached by somebody they'd been to a gig. And they said,
talking about being a dad.
Yeah. And he went, isn't it mad that I've had this conversation with you, or that I've given away something of myself, or felt like I was giving away something of myself as part of a conversation about how you feel about a particular issue. It wasn't the podcast, which that struck me as something else, which there's a connection there in terms of making that connection and feeling a connection to that individual. It comes onto a wider point that they were making about medication and how that wasn't appropriate, or he didn't feel like Stu, in Stu's case, that medication was right for them, but actually he found more solace, if you like, or more development in having conversations with human beings in different environments. The medication point I was trying to make was that the medication has been proven through interviews that we've done on this program that for some people medication absolutely works. Medication is absolutely the thing that gets them back on a different track, that might well be the point that takes them out of maybe the lull that they're in or the problems that they're in. And it's fair to say they probably disagree with that.
I don't know. I think actually you were both making the same point, but then they disagreed with each other. So but I think you both kind of making the same point, in which that you're saying medication isn't necessarily the answer, but it can be that starting point to be part of a wider recovery plan and process. And it is for a lot of people that kind of starting point to say, well, I will go to the doctors, I will have medication, and it might be that you have medication for a month, for 2 months, but that can just help you get through to this next stage. It definitely 100% agree with the points that you were both making, in that it is just part of that solution, and that's why at Chasing the Stigma and through the Hub of Hope, you know, we are passionate about whatever you kind of, what label you put on it. Social prescribing is what the label is at the moment, but it's looking at these other social platforms, these other ways of help, whether that is football or music or art or whatever that might be. To be able to look at these different things that can help people in that recovery, and I just think to go back on the point as well about music and what they're able to do. But don't you think that music has such a powerful way of getting through to people when they're alone? You know, music, we often turn to music as for answers. Music can lift you up, it can bring you down, it can answer a lot of questions that you have. A song that's written by somebody who doesn't even know you exist actually can feel like it's written for you. And I think by using music to get to people who maybe that might be in the middle of the night when they can't sleep or something is a really, really powerful tool. So fair play to them for taking this and using it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a link through our the site where we host the podcast to the work that they're doing through Calm. And the Purple Rain track as well, which you can download, subscribe, take a listen to as well. We played a snippet. We don't want to play too much, otherwise people would just listen to the podcast and get it for free from there. But
I wondered why it went off.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's basically so you then have to go on. It's called a tease, basically.
Clever.
Now the fact I could tell that there was a lot going on in that interview with Stu and Keith from the Peace Pirates was because you've come away with notes. You started writing stuff down.
Yeah, no, because there was a lot going on, and I wanted to remember all the points that they're making. But do you know what? They could have their own show, man. They could have their own podcast where they're just talking, because I could listen to them. They're so passionate and say really articulate in the things that they kind of believed in, and you know, they've got that backstory. I think they were brilliant advocates, and obviously have a story to tell as well.
Jake, I understand you were meeting this week with financial services. Now this is going to sound a little bit dry as I'm saying it, but you're going to bring this to life with an explanation of the work you're doing through Chasing the Stigma. You working with utilities providers to get a little bit wiser to maybe how people are living their lives. What's been going on here?
Yeah, so this is part of research that's being done by a company based in Liverpool called Mando, and they're looking at, it's basically about the idea that utility companies do want to be able to offer help and support to people, particularly those who maybe struggle with debt and with mental health difficulties. And the work that Mando are doing is looking at, do people know the support that's available? Do people know that you can go to utilities companies or financial companies and be, you know, having an honest and open conversation with them to say, I'm struggling, and looking at ways to be able to work together to be able to overcome those difficulties, particularly on a finance point of view. And the point that I was kind of on where they've kind of been able to work with myself and Chasing Stigma is being able to kind of look at how the reality of whether people do know that or not. And I would make the point that people don't know that you can have that conversation. And
so what if you can't pay your bill because you've been signed off with stress?
Yeah. And yeah. So basically, if you're struggling to be able to pay the bill, I would argue that the majority of people would avoid that conversation because they would feel that it would be used against them rather than the opposite. And so we're looking at how we can get that point across and that message across from both sides to be able to say what help is available and do you know that you can ask for that help. And it's really important because as in the article that you're referring to, or the interview that you're referring to, I would say people don't really talk to each other or loved ones or a medical professional about what they're going through. So certainly the last person I would argue they would talk to would be somebody they owe money to.
Well, this is the point as well. And I guess the other thing is that people might think, well, how are they, you know, somebody might have done some training, but then the person you speak to on the phone, they might not have done that training. Mm-hmm. Whereas you would hope that, you know, if you have, you know, different organisations, if you send you a bill, it may contain, you know, they have like little badges and things like that, investors in people, autism aware and things like that as well. Is that actually something that we'd be looking at where you'd have something on a company's organised? So if you wanted to raise that issue with them or explain a situation to them, you would get the sense that there was at least training in place, which would mean that the other person on the phone would go, and what? Yeah. So what? Just give us the money. Yeah. You know, you'd want to know that person was trained.
Yeah, absolutely. But then it's also looking at different ways. So if that is an issue that maybe people wouldn't have that conversation, is there a way of looking at a digital platform to be able to make that easier? If there is going to be a barrier between people asking for help and actually saying it out loud, is it looking at different ways of being able to make that as easy as possible for people to do? And that's work that Mando are looking at, and I think it's going to be a case of watch this space, because I think there will be something that will come out of that to be able to make that help as easy as possible to find.
Excellent, he says.
Yeah.
Already knowing that something's going to come out of it, but doesn't want to say too much because he don't want to give it away.
Yeah.
If that exclusive appears somewhere else first, I might be a bit miffed.
Well, just say it.
You just put it on Twitter, won't it? You just put it on Twitter. What are you working on this week through Chasing the Stigma and the Hub of Hope?
Yeah, so we are continuing with our Ambassador Hope training. at the moment now, what we're kind of asking for, and this is an appeal to anybody who has used the Hub of Hope, whether that is for yourself or somebody else as part of your job, if you use it as part of a service that you offer, and you're happy to tell us and give us feedback about how it's been, whether that's testimonial to say that it's been absolutely brilliant or feedback about how it can improve. That's what we're trying to look at now, as we are trying to bring in investment and continue to develop that and improve the service. We want to know what people are thinking and how it's being used. And, I'm quite often I'm going around and talking about this and people will say, yeah, we've used that. And I don't know. We don't know, we know numbers and where, but we don't know how it's actually being used on a day-to-day basis, and we need some feedback on that. So if you can do that via social media for Chasing the Stigma, or info@chasingstigma.co.uk, and just let us know what you think of it.
If it's worked for you, if it's not working, or you think that something could be improved, if you think he needs to pull up his socks a little bit more, do get in contact with us. If anyone wants to forward it to me, I'll forward it on to Jake as well. hubofhope.co.uk. If you want to find mental health services according to where you are, you can do that using the location device on your phone, or you can just type in your postcode as well. It's a very helpful service. Jake Mills, thank you for your time. Great to see you as ever. Jake Mills from Chasing the Stigma, here for Mental Health Extra on Radio City Talk.
Mental Health Monday with Mick Coyle
on Radio City Talk.